Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivadikaya Ashtotra Shri Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. bhagavate vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 4th Canto, Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 22, Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the Kumaras. We're on text 32. Nata parataro loke pumsa swarta vitikramaha yada yanasya preyastvam atmana svavitikramat. Nata parataro loke pumsa swarta vitikramaha yada yanasya preyastvam atmana svavitikramat. Nata parataro loke pumsa swarta vitikramaha yada yanasya preyastvam atmana svavitikramat.
Nata parataro loke, nata parataro loke, pumsa swarta vitikramaha, pumsa swarta vitikramaha, yadananyasya preyastvam, yadananyasya preyastvam, atmanasya vitikramat, atmanasya vitikramat. Nata parataro loke, pumsa swarta vitikramaha, atmana svavitikramat. Nata parataro loke, nata parataro loke, swarta vitikramaha, swarta vitikramaha, yadanyasya preyastvam, atmana svavitikramat, atmana svavitikramat. Nata parataro loke, pumsa swarta vitikramaha, yadanyasya preyastvam, atmanasya vitikramaha.
Okay. Na, not. Ataha, after this. Parataraha, greater. Loke, in this world. Pumsaha, of the living entities. Swarta, interest. Vitikramaha, obstruction. Yadadi, beyond that. Anyasya, of others. Priyastvam, to be more interesting. Atmanaha, for the self. Swa, own. Vitikramat, by obstruction. Translation. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. Purport. Human life is especially meant for self-realization. Self refers to the super-self and the individual self, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the living entity. When, however, one becomes more interested in the body and bodily sense gratification, he creates for himself obstructions on the path of self-realization. By the influence of Maya, one becomes more interested in sense gratification, which is prohibited in this world for those interested in self-realization. Instead of becoming interested in sense gratification, one should divert his activities to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Soul. Anything performed contrary to this principle is certainly against one's self-interest. So I'll just read one more. For human society, artindriyartha vidyanam swartha navonirnam brahmshito gyanavijnanad hina vishyati mukyatam. For human society, constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply it for sense gratification brings about the destruction of everyone's interest. When one becomes devoid of knowledge and devotional service, he enters into species of life, like those of trees and stones. Purport. Jnana, or knowledge, means to understand one's constitutional position, and vijnana refers to practical application of that knowledge in life. In the human form of life, one should come to the position of jnana and vijnana. But despite this great opportunity, if one does not develop knowledge and practical application of knowledge through the help of a spiritual master in the Shastras, in other words, if one misuses this opportunity, then in the next life he is sure to be born in a species of non-moving living entities. Non-moving living entities include hills, mountains, trees, plants, etc. This stage of life is called punyatam or mukyatam, namely making all activities zero. Philosophers who support stopping all activities are called shunyavadi. By nature's own way, our activities are to be gradually diverted to devotional service. But there are philosophers who, instead of purifying their activities, try to make everything zero or void of all activities. This lack of activity is represented by the trees and the hills. This is a kind of punishment inflicted by the laws of nature. If we do not properly execute our mission of life and self-realization, nature's punishment will render us inactive by putting us in the form of trees and hills. Therefore, activities directed toward sense gratification are condemned herein. One who is constantly thinking of activities to earn money and gratify the senses is following a path which is suicidal. Factually, all human society is following this path. Some way or other, people are determined to earn money or get money by begging, borrowing, or stealing, and applying that for sense gratification. Such a civilization is the greatest obstacle in the path of self-realization. You could grab me a Bhagavad Gita, Glenn, please. Om Ganatavadandasya Gananjana Shvakaya Chakshudharmalitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Makam Kritvachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurundiritadanam Bancha Kapalubhishta Kripa Sindhu Vivacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'll read the translations again. Okay. There is no stronger obstruction to one's self-interest than thinking other subject matters to be more pleasing than one's self-realization. For human society, constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply it for sense gratification brings about the destruction of everyone's interest. When one becomes devoid of knowledge and devotional service, he enters into species of life like those of trees and stones. So, there obviously is a lot of souls, right, within this world. And you could say a fortunate soul, they turn to God, they turn to Krishna, and in all circumstances and throughout their life. And unfortunate people, they don't do that, they turn away. And this turning away is actually the cause of all, you could say, suffering, bewilderment, illusion. And, pain. So, but one thing is that turning to God, or turning to, in our case, Krishna specifically, it's not really good enough just to turn to Krishna. means we have to become lovers of Krishna. And that's what Krishna wants us to do, right? He wants us to surrender. Sarvadhamam prityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tam sarvat papebhyo mokshas yamasucha. So he's saying, don't worry, I'll protect you from all sinful reactions. Just surrender unto me. Krishna's saying, I shall protect you. So, surrender to Krishna means that, okay, I have my plan, as Prabhupada said, I have my plan, you have your plan, and Krishna has his plan. So the idea is to find out what is Krishna's plan and live by that. What is Krishna's plan? And Krishna, he has a whole, via the spiritual master and the Vedic literature, Krishna has a whole bunch of things that he wants us to do. Like a lot of different things he wants us to do. Like Krishna, via the spiritual master, says you should wake up early in the morning. 4 a.m., wake up early in the morning. That's something he wants us to do. He wants us to distribute books. Not just any books, but spiritual, transcendental literature, book distribution. He wants us to do that. And there's a whole list of so many things that Krishna wants us to do. So, and then we have our individual lives where, we have individual, you could say, missions that we want to accomplish for Krishna, within Krishna consciousness. So, so the idea is to, do those things that Krishna wants us to do, and not do those things that he doesn't want us to do. That's called surrender. And if somebody doesn't follow that course, here it's being stated, there's some severe reactions, and that it's a suicidal course. It's just a suicidal course. And people say, oh, why is it so severe reactions? It's like, well, that's just the nature of us, that's the nature of this world, right? We're eternal servants of Krishna, our business is to serve Krishna. Just like if, for breakfast, right, Mahabharat's making whatever he's making. But there's certain things that humans eat, and there's certain things that humans don't eat, just by nature. So humans, like for example, we got a bunch of plastic bags back there from Sprouts or whatever, this store, that store. I mean, he's not going to cut up those plastic bags and, make them into little balls and fry them, right, and serve them for breakfast. He's not going to do that. Because you don't eat that for breakfast. Why? Because it's harmful. It's harmful. You have to go to the hospital if you do that. So similarly, there's things by nature that are just harmful. Just within this world, by nature, you put them in your body, you subject your consciousness to certain things, it's harmful. So similarly, by avoiding God, and there's so many ways to do that, just ask me, I know. By avoiding God, one sets themselves up for failure. And specifically, as it's being stated here, it's suicidal course. Dangerous. And that's the problem, you could say, with conditioned soul. Conditioned means they're conditioned by the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, ignorance, which in and of themselves, these modes, there's certain ways of thinking, certain ways of behaving, certain ways of living, which in and of themselves don't really have anything to do with God, don't have anything to do with Krishna. In the sense that if one just remains living, thinking, acting in certain ways, then they'll just become remain entangled in this world, conditioned. So they become habituated to certain ways of thinking and acting and living that have anything really to do with being God conscious. So the problem with being a conditioned soul is that a conditioned soul, just like some people, there's a lot of suicide going on nowadays. Especially more than ever. Yeah, more than there ever has been before. At least within the last 100 years. A lot of suicide going on. And a lot of the people who commit suicide, they are somehow or other they're younger people. Of course, you could look at the statistics, but there's a lot of young people, like really young. It's ridiculous, actually. There's certain people, they have tendencies. They want to cut their wrist, or so many horrible ways they want to try to commit suicide. And sometimes they are captured before that. Somebody grabs them by the arm. No, you're not going to. They're on watch. You can't. They're not going to let them commit suicide. Just like if you go to some hospital type of facilities where they keep people who are mentally deranged or whatever you want to say, disturbed. They're on watch. They can't have certain. They can't give them their own whatever razors to shave their face, or they're on watch. They're dangerous, suicidal tendencies. So what I'm saying is that, my point is that the conditioned soul has suicidal tendencies, which means tendency to turn away from Krishna. It's suicidal. It's the worst thing, right? Like we read this morning. You forget Krishna for even a moment, it's the worst thing, the worst calamity. That's what we read this morning. Druida Prabhu read that quote. So the idea is that, and for example, like a kid, like a child, children have parents for a reason, because if they didn't have parents, especially when they're young, like somebody brought their 3-week-old boy to the temple here, the other Bhagavad Gita, class, Alberto, he goes to the lounge. He brought his wife. I didn't even know he had a wife, but he brought his wife and kid. 3 weeks old. So there's a reason why that 3-week-old kid has a mother taking care of him. Why? Because he can't take care of himself. Just leave him there. What's going to happen? Everybody knows what's going to happen. Just leave him there to himself. Is he going to be able to survive? Is he going to be able to make it on his own? No, you can't. So similarly, turning away from Krishna is just like that. People think, oh well, I'm a strong man or woman or whatever, and I can make it on my own, and I could be happy, successful. I don't need God, right? Get out of my life, kick him out of my life. But doing that is just like a baby, just like that baby, 3-week-old baby, just being left there to its own devices. It just doesn't work. So therefore, it's suicidal, and therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he wanted people, specifically his disciples and his followers, grand disciples and followers, to try to help because as it's being stated here, saying that, right, human society constantly thinking of how to earn money and apply for sense gratification. What is everybody doing? This is exactly what they're doing. Constantly thinking about how to make money and apply it for sense gratification. The only reason people are interested in money is that it provides sense gratification, or else they wouldn't be interested. Sense gratification meaning, we have the senses of the body, the eyes and nose and tongue and ears and all the senses of the body, and the senses have urges. The eyes want to see, the tongue wants to taste, the ears want to hear beautiful things, right? Yeah, the 5 senses. So, they have urges, and in order to fulfill those urges, then money. You need some money. Or as Devamrita Swami, he said his mother told him at a very young age, in relation to romance, apparently. She said, romance without finance is a nuisance. So, you need some money. People, okay, we love each other, and, the glitter in the eye and all that type of whatever, all this poetry, and okay, but when it comes down to it, we need to make some money, we need to get things going, right? Because you need a house and all these different things. Not free. Nothing's free, right? Or everything has a price. So yeah, this is what people are engaged in. Finding money so they could engage in sense gratification. And Srila Prabhupada says that one who is constantly thinking of activities to earn money and gratify the senses is following a path which is, does he say, glorious, wonderful, amazing? It's the mission of human life. No, he says, which is suicidal. He says, which is suicidal. So all these people that we're dealing with in this world, if they're not striving towards Krishna consciousness, towards God consciousness, if they're just striving for money and sense gratification, it just says it's suicidal. So it's a very, and then what does he say next? Factually, all human societies follow on this path. So he says that following such and such path is suicidal, and then he says the whole human society is following that path. That's quite a statement there. Some way or other, people determined to earn money or get money by begging, borrowing, stealing, and applying that for sense gratification. So we don't want to get into the details how people get money, but somehow or other they get it. Such a civilization is the greatest obstacle in the path of civilization. So the asuric jana, right, the non-devotee class, or you could say the demoniac class of living entities, means those who are completely devoid of God consciousness. They could care less about anything like that. They're just after money and sense gratification, the two most important things in life. They have created such a civilization. The civilization is created by these people, which is the greatest obstacle in the path of civilization. So, what are we supposed to do? We just lament? Should we pack up, right? Close down the temple, move to the Himalayas? Right? It's probably more peaceful up there. It's definitely more peaceful up there. Even I know sometimes people say, oh, you bring your mind, and that's true, but just in so many ways it is more peaceful. I mean, you don't have, like here in the city, you have your mind, right, and your senses or whatever, but there's a bunch of other people too who are also have their mind and their senses and who are, creating a materialistic atmosphere. So, in many ways, yeah, it may be more peaceful going to the Himalayas, but is that what Srila Prabhupada advised us to do? No. He advised us to stay, just like Prahlad Maharaj. Right? Prahlad Maharaj says, I'm not interested in going to the Himalayas, but I'm interested in going to the most important, or the most, you could say, busy parts of the world where people congregate. Why? So we could give them Krishna consciousness. And here, Srila Prabhupada, there's a quote. Srila Prabhupada, this is a letter to Jayadvaita. Apparently he wasn't a Swami then. So, letter to Jayadvaita, 18th November 1972. There's Prabhupada. Walking. Good example for us. Take walks sometimes. Exercise. So, this is what Prabhupada says. He says, these books and magazines are our most important propaganda weapons to defeat the ignorance of Maya's army. So Prabhupada would say, the ignorance of Maya's army. So Prabhupada would speak in these terms sometimes. War, battle, army. So Maya's army, you could say all the people who, materialistic leaders and their followers, which are many. There's a lot of them. We're actually outnumbered, sorry to say. But they have a certain message that they're trying to communicate to us, to the world, and namely is that Yeah, just money and sense gratification. That's what it's all about. Forget about God. Forget about religion. And even if you do engage in religion, yeah, it's a Sunday thing at best. You don't really have to surrender to God. So they have a certain message, Maya's army. And he says, the more we produce such literature and sell them profusely all over the world. So what's the definition of profusely? Abundantly. Means a lot. More, as much as possible. Millions, billions. What is it? Umpteen, zillion, whatever. Unlimited distribute books. More we produce and distribute them profusely all over the world, the more we shall deliver the world from what? From the suicidal course. Suicidal course. Yes. No, he says suicide course. Same, suicide course. So, your work is the most important preaching work. May Krishna bless you more and more. Thank you for helping me in this way. So, it's Prabhupada saying that the more we shall deliver the world from suicide course. So that means people will get books, they'll get the translated knowledge, and they'll become convinced. Because Prabhupada is very convincing. If anything, if one of the main things that Prabhupada was able to do is was able to convince people. And still he's convincing people through his books. Surrender to Krishna, surrender to Krishna. I mean, how is the whole movement going on? He's convincing people, surrender to Krishna. Because he himself was convinced. There's a case, I believe it was here in SanDiego actually. There was one man, and he was sitting in a car, and apparently a way to commit suicide is that you let the, exhaust come into your vehicle, come into your car. And if you sit in there long enough, then goodbye. Yeah. Sayonara. You're gone, right? You leave the body. Soul leaves the body. You die. The body dies. Suicide. So he was doing that. He was thinking, okay, what's the use? And okay, it's sunny SanDiego, and who knows what he was thinking? Sunny SanDiego. That sometimes that's the problem, right? It's sunny SanDiego, a bunch of beautiful people around, and this and that. But I can't exactly make it. I can't cut the mark. Somehow it's not working out for me. It seems to be working out for everybody else, but not me. Sometimes that's a problem. Or who knows, so many other problems. God knows there could be a billion problems why he came to this point of wanting to commit suicide. But nonetheless, he was sitting there in his car. So he's sitting there and getting ready to leave. And then a devotee comes by. Means a monk, or I would suspect, or devotee. Hare Krishna person comes by, knocks on the, hey man, roll down your window, roll down your window. The guy's, no, get lost, don't bother me, get out of here. No, hey, devotees are persistent, right? Sankirtan devotees, no, really. So, no, get and the devotee said, okay, fine, I'm going to have some mercy on this guy, and, seems like he's suffering. Yeah, he is suffering, he's about to commit suicide. So what the devotee does is he puts a book, a small book, Perfection of Yoga, I believe it was, one of Srila Prabhupada's books. So he puts it on the, picks up the windshield wiper, puts the book there, and then the devotee takes off. And then SanDiego. Well, through the exhaust. Yeah, you could do that. Don't try it. Yeah, that's what I suspected, that there's a tube and it goes into your car and it fills up, and I don't know, I don't want to experiment, but so it doesn't, the story didn't explain where he was at a rock concert, or I don't know, God knows where he was, in a parking lot. So people do that sometimes, like there's a guy at Toys R Us, kind of a strange place to commit suicide, but right there in the parking lot. Some other way he did it. So And the devotee leaves, and this man sitting here, he's thinking, okay, might as well read this book. Well, he reads the book, and then he decides not to commit suicide based on what he read. Oh, I'm the soul, this and that. And, I don't know exactly who he was and this and that, but I read it in some, I think Navina Nirada, wasn't it, Back to Godhead. So that's one case, and there's so many cases of, the books, the knowledge just saving people in so many different ways. So that's what Prabhupada's bringing up, that people have to be given knowledge. People have to be, you could say, delivered from their suicidal course. And that's what Prabhupada created the International Society for Krishna Consciousness for. To help people fulfill the mission of human life, which is not money, which is not sense gratification, which is to become Krishna conscious, fully Krishna conscious, and to go back to Godhead, go back to the spiritual world. And the more that we could turn towards Krishna and do what Krishna wants us to do, the more we become empowered to help that mission. The more we become empowered to actually participate, you could say, in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela of delivering the conditioned souls. And but that's really our option, whether we want to participate or not. How much do we want to participate? And if we could fully turn towards Krishna and remain in Krishna's association and not turn our back towards Krishna, then we become capable of participating in this very, wonderful historical mission. And lastly is that, I'll just say one last thing. I'll read it from Prabhupada's purport. This is, where's that? Naman Duskritina Mudha? 7, I forget, which one was it? 21 or? Yeah. Namam Duskritina Mudha, 7:15. So 7:15, this is a very famous verse. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that Duskrita, miscreant, right? The lowest of mankind. Which means that, anyways, so you don't have to get in. It means someone just, bewildered by illusion and not God conscious. So he says that 99.99% of the population is like that. So in other words, they're fallen. They don't know what they're doing. So, and what does he say? He says, Nityananda Prabhu, who is the incarnation of Godhead as Divine Master, to deliver the typical Naradamas. The brothers, Jaga and Madai, and showed how the mercy of a real devotee is bestowed upon the lowest of mankind. So, the Naradama, who is condemned by the personality of Godhead, can again revive his spiritual consciousness only by the mercy of a devotee. So that's how Krishna arranged it, that he sends Nityananda Prabhu, and he sends all of his other representatives of Nityananda devotees, and then they go out somehow or other, this way, that way, so many different ways, and they give mercy to these people. And that's how they revive their spiritual consciousness. So that's what Srila Prabhupada wants us to participate in. Okay, so does anybody have any questions or comments?
question I have is that in the second verse it was saying that people who follow that path land up as trees and stones and immovable
Yes.
bodies.
Yes.
Does that mean most of the population is heading in that direction? Or is it the leaders of that society who are
Yeah.
being kind of like...
Well, there's that in the Bhagavad Gita. There's those famous pictures, right? If somebody's living, thinking, breathing there's a picture of a hog, right? The guy becomes a hog in his next life. So there is a chance of souls descending into animal species, and also, as Prabhupada says here, amazingly enough, right? Stones and hills and these different, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, from all practical, points of view, it does look like a lot of people are heading.
There are a lot of trees and stones.
That's true. They're heading in the wrong direction, so which could end up, who knows,
Constantly thinking about having money apply with inspiration, that's pretty broad. I mean, people are doing that.
It's kind of like a timeout. When you're a teacher or parent, you tell your kid, it's time out, just sit there for a while.
Yes.
Yes, that's good.
Time out. Like Narada Muni with Mani Griva Nalakuvara.
At
right?
a time out.
At a time out for some long period. But the wonderful thing about Vaishnava, about Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam philosophy is that it's not like become a tree and remain like that forever, or become a hog and that's it. You have to imagine being a hog forever. Oh man, that's real punishment. A hog forever, or hell forever. Right? So the wonderful thing about this Hare Krishna, right, tradition is that people may have to experience those bodies, those situations, but there's always around the corner, bright side. Means becoming a human again and get another chance to elevate oneself to the, spiritual platform. So,
I think on the other side we can remember, if I'm not mistaken, how even if someone just chants the holy name once, they're going to get a human body. So the spread of the Hare Krishna movement, and it says in the 6th canto. In the prayers of Chitraketu, I believe, one of his set of prayers, that even if one hears the holy name once, then so much sin is removed. So that's this movement is the hope. The spread of the holy name through Hare Krishna movement is the hope for these people, so that you don't have to spend eons in lower species or minerals or whatever. So there's a bright side.
I mean, sometimes devotees quote, which I'm interested where it's located, which I thought I saw it in Hari Shari's Transcendental Diary. He has 5, I think. And it said something like Prabhupada said, if somebody takes prasadam, like an animal or whoever takes prasadam, then they immediately get a human birth. Now, I thought I read that, but I was looking for it and I couldn't find it. And somebody told me that Devamrita Swami quotes that sometimes. He said, get a human body. Anyways, we could try find it. Because that's an important, if Prabhupada said that they get a human body versus he didn't say that, there's a big, Prabhupada said, if you take prasadam, food offered to Krishna, you get a human body. That's quite a statement versus not being said. There's a big difference there. Yeah. So this says, however, because I was trying to find where it says 99.9%, so you don't think I'm making it up. Duskriti, when it's describing the Duskra, miscreant, Naradama, lowest mankind, it says, however, no process is strictly followed now in any part of the world, and therefore 99.9% of the population is Naradama. So it's stated. Yes?
So I just have a question.
No, you need.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Well, first of all, it's great being here with
Karaoke.
you. I'm very open-minded and I'm very a spiritual seeker. But what is your message to the vast majority of people who might hear you speak and telling them that's the only way? How can you reach into their soul to get them into understand that they are on a spiritual journey, but not freaking them out? In other words, just very gently awakening them to understand that if you don't believe in something higher than you, then you are, quote unquote, doomed to this or doomed to that. Because what I hear you saying here is that if you don't believe in Krishna, so you are doomed to be suicidal.
Yeah.
So how do we approach the rest of the world, the people who don't have this concept, in a very gentle, loving kindness, to say, come on in and listen to what we have to say? You get the point, I guess.
Yeah. Well, one way we go out and like we have this Bhaktivedanta book trust, and it's part of the Hare Krishna movement. And with that, Bhaktivedanta produces a lot of books, thousands and millions of books. So what we do all over the world is we distribute those books all over the world. So on people's free time, they could open up the book and read through it, and we hope, And books are very patient, right? They'll wait there 365 days a year, year after year after year, waiting for a soul to turn, and read. So that's one way. And the idea is that by reading the books, they enlighten us and convince us, what should be done with our lives. So that's there, but it is difficult because in many ways it's an individual thing. Like there's a big world, but individually how we communicate with one particular group versus another particular group versus another, or one person versus another may be very different. So in other words, depending on a person's level of consciousness or a person's level of sincerity, we communicate them differently. And sometimes it may be very nicely or motherly or gently, but sometimes it may be strong as well, because sometimes, like Prabhupada would give the example, if somebody has a boil on their body, they go to the doctors, and the doctor doesn't blow on the boil or pat it or something, but the doctor removes it with a sharp tool. So similarly, sometimes we may speak with people. We have to use our discretion and we may use maybe strong techniques or words. And Prabhupada said one time about that, he said, there was some mishap with some of his disciples. They got in some trouble. They were kind of heavily criticizing or being critical, and a lot of people got upset. And Prabhupada didn't agree with the mode in which they did this. So they were on a morning walk, and Prabhupada said to the devotees, these devotees apparently, which he said, criticism means, trying to help people via using criticism, is a fine art. And he said, which you do not know how to do. So we have to learn how to do that. It's a fine art. But like Prabhupada, for example, he would say, like to this guy who was attached to wine. Now, of course, we don't go around preaching like this, but that was the level the guy was on, and he couldn't see past that level at all. So Prabhupada said, okay, fine, you want to drink wine? Then when you drink that wine, just this is the taste of Krishna. Right? He said that you could think this is the taste of Krishna. So it really depends on the person. Javita Prabhu, did you have a last comment?
Yeah, just one comment.
And then we'll end.
The Bhagavatam class, and specifically the verse you read, is a heavy verse. I mean, these you come. But we have many different kinds of books. Some of the books are designed. They're compilations of lectures that were chosen and edited for Back to Godhead. And they present the message in a more systematic way, starting with the science of the soul and so
Yeah.
forth, And so it's there are all kinds of ways. And then we invite people to come, festivals. We have a little parade called Rath Yatra. Everyone can come, dance, chant, take prasadam. And if the lecture is too heavy, you walk to another booth, And in other words, there's a little something for everyone. So there's...
Okay. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki